Most of the times, we see text written along a straight line. We already mentioned that this invisible line we call baseline, which makes it easy to read text. But what if you want to create some motion by breaking up that baseline, but instead of moving each character individually, use a curved path that the text can follow? So this is again something quite simple to set up. All you have to do is to have a path created. Now in this video we will look at creating a path with the pen tool, but in the next video I will also show you if you use shapes like an ellipse, for example, and how you can do a similar technique. So first of all, the pen tool, I can click and then click and drag to start defining curves. We've learned this already in this course, so I am just going to draw something like that. Now I will press Shift X because I don't want to use any fill color, so it just has a simple stroke color at the moment. But then if I want to add text on this, I can just simply use the Type tool and hover over this path, and when I see this cursor showing up, it's very important, the cursor itself has to be visible, then you can actually start adding text on the path. So by clicking anywhere on the path, it immediately puts some random text in there, which we can then start manipulating. Now if I use the selection tool and I click somewhere else, you will actually see that the path is now hidden, it's not visible anymore, but it's still there and we can still edit it. If I hover over it, it will show up. And more importantly, the tool that you will need to use here is the direct selection tool. So that's A on the keyboard, or this is the one here in the toolbar, because with this you will be able to adjust the text on the path or the path itself. So there are a couple of things you need to remember here. First of all, you can change the starting point of the text. So it's almost like moving the text along the path. Make sure you don't click on that square, you drag the actual line itself. So there's a little line there, and you want to see the cursor looking like this, what you see on my screen now, to be able to amend the start point. And then there is also an end point, this one here. Once again, don't click on that empty square. That's for threading text. That's not something you would normally do with text on a path, but of course you can do that. So in case you want to have the text going from one path to another, you can also use that. Let me just show you that quickly. So if we have another path created like that, again, I'm going to use my previous text, the direct selection tool, and drag this one in. So you will see that the first two words are still visible, but the rest is now in overflow state. So they are not visible. And this is something we talked about, the threading of text. I can actually do that by clicking on that red plus and come over onto this path here and add them in there. So that would be two paths and the text is connected by using a threading. Now I'm going to delete this second path and I will come back here and I just increase the space in which the text can be written. So that's once again, that's the end point. And if I want to move both the start and end point at the same time, then there is another indicator, this one here in the middle, with which I can just drag the whole thing at once. So that moves both the start and end point. And another thing I can use this center line, which is sometimes hardly visible, is to actually switch where the text is written. So above or below the path. So that's also quite useful. You can amend that quite easily. And I mentioned that you can still change the shape of the path. All you have to do is to select anchor points on the path to be able to adjust that. And of course you have your handle points as well, so you can really customize how you want your path to look like. So if you don't like the way it was set up originally, you can start amending it. And last but not least, there is also a very cool technique. If you want your characters to all be turned 90 degrees left or right, you can use the type orientation vertical option. I use this sometimes, especially when I have text on a path. So if I want my characters to not only sit on that path and follow it, but even rotate around and flow in that direction, then I would use this simple transition in the type menu. So once again, it's not destructive at all. You can always go back and switch it back to horizontal if you want to use it that way. The cool thing is that when you have text on a path, you still have all the character formatting options. All you have to do is just simply double click on the text, and then you can use kerning, for example, alt left and right arrows. You can select the text, you can increase them in size, you can change their color, and of course you can access all the character formatting options. So similarly to touch type, even though you have the text running along a path, it is still fully editable. So now that we explored this technique, I'm going to show you a quite similar way of putting text around or within shapes in the next video.